Redditors who went to high school with a celebrity. What were they like before they were famous? Went to high school with Drake. He put 3 separate dollars into a vending machine before he realized it was broken. At that point he was famous as the wheelchair guy from Degrassi. He put 3 separate dollars into a vending machine before he realized it was broken. That is the most Drake thing I've ever heard. Grew up in the city in between the cities where Chris Pratt and Anna Faris grew up. My older brother knew Anna through other friends. And Chris used to sell me cheeseburgers when I'd go to the car show in the parking lot of King Charlie's where he worked. To my knowledge they didn't know each other yet. My dad went to high school with the voice of Patrick Star. He was actually a really smart, popular, nice guy. He was also naturally goofy, as you might expect. I can't even imagine what the person would look like because all I can picture is a star. My dad went to the same high school as Steve Harvey and told me he couldn't believe it when he discovered he was famous because Steve hardly ever said anything and was the shy kid. That surprises me. Taylor Lautner went to my high school. He was a year ahead. He was also a kinda weird kid. I remember him rolling around on the floor in his video production class. There was also that time the Elephant Bar was mobbed with paparazzi in town cause he went there with his NGF Taylor Swift. I also rented a library book with Ashley Tisdale's name in it. Good ole Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita is where creative souls go to die. My high school Spanish teacher took an English class at UCLA with James Franco as the professor. She FaceTimed him during class one day and it was the coolest thing ever. Apparently he's super smart and really down to earth. I was at a wedding in fall with his brother, Dave Franco and Allison Brie. They were also both really cool and normal. Dave gave a hilarious speech, and they were both extremely photogenic in all of the pictures they were in. I was a year behind Zach Galifianakis in elementary and high school. He seems like pretty much the exact same guy he was years ago, down to earth, super funny and a little goofy. He was also a Boy Scout. Boy Scout totally describes this guy. At some point, he made friends with a homeless woman. He got her an apartment and paid her expenses for quite a period of time. He has also brought her along to several of his movie premieres. My older sister went to school with Brad Pitt. He asked her out once and she agreed to go, but the night before their date, her ex called and they made up and she cancelled the date with Brad. Your sister done fricked up. Was friends with pornster Megan Rain in middle school and high school. We had paid together in 7th or 8th grade and we would walk whenever we had to run a mile. She walked cause she was a stereotypical pretty girl who never ran, and I was fat, so we made friends. She moved schools in high school and I still saw her from time to time around town. Last I saw her was when I ran into her downtown a couple weeks before I found out she did pee. Went to the same high school as Ian Somerhalder. Everyone said he was really chill and no one believed him when he said he had a modeling contract. He looks like a male model. Let's just say that I would not be surprised to hear him say that back in high school. My boyfriend's mother was Sandra Bullock's college roommate at ECU. She said that Sandy was very driven and serious about her work, which is probably why she is the accomplished actress she is today. Random Sandra Bullock fact, she speaks almost impeccable German. There is a German prize she won and her whole speech was spoken freely and almost without fault or even an inclination that she lived in America. My dad went to high school with Jon Stewart and had Teller from Penn & Teller as his Latin teacher. My dad was a senior when Jon Stewart was a freshman, so he doesn't know anything about him, but he loved having Teller as a teacher. Supposedly Penn and the other guy they started out with would come in to practice tricks. Also, he talked. My dad hated high school and skipped a lot of classes, but he really enjoyed his Latin classes. He passed it on to me. So really, Teller is responsible for my minor in classical language. I find it hilarious that a celebrity famous for being silent is a language teacher. My mom went to high school in Michigan with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. She said they were always making movies and were both pretty big dorks but everybody loved them. She even showed me old pictures of them filming the school news in her ebooks. I went to school with Margot Robbie. She was in her final year when I started high school. She was one of the mentors that I had in the first year of high school, and she seemed like a pretty normal person. Very kind. I think she already had a little bit of fame at this point but I was none the wiser to it. I am furiously envious. Went to school with Lord Takapuna Grammar. She wasn't particularly cool or weird, but when we were 17 she hit on my friend at a party and he was like, "You're 14. Frick off." Her sister's a real B though, apparently. I was thinking. I had no idea Lord's real name was so weird. I need some sleep. I always thought Katy Perry, then Katie Hudson, was kind of an idiot when we were in high school together. Then she dropped out after about 6 months, got engaged, and made millions. Guess she was smarter than I thought. Oh, honey. He didn't go to my high school, but I grew up really close to Justin Bieber and I had friends that were close to him. One of them was actually in his movie. The Biebs brought him down to LA for a vacation. Don't really know much about how he used to be, but everyone used to make fun of him for the videos he used to put on YouTube singing. Then they all miraculously wanted to be besties after he got discovered. Barely counts, but when I was getting a tattoo, a Bruno Mars song came on and my artist started laughing and said he went to elementary school with him. Apparently all he remembers anytime he hears him is that he crapped his pants on a field trip and cried until he was picked up by his mom. Also doesn't count, but I went to college with his cousin. Said cousin was fine as frick, but when I went to his house to work on a group project he just dabbed and didn't contribute much at all. Talked a lot about how he was Bruno Mars' cousin. Lost interest pretty quickly. My dad went to high school with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Anytime we see him in anything he always says that guy is such a douchebag. It fits. John Winchester was a freaking douche and Negan too, I guess. My dad went to school with Renee Zellweger. He hated how she would call our town a small town when she talked about it on TV, complaining about how there was nothing to do. I remember him saying she lived down the street from the movie theater. I think people do it to sound endearing. Just like when conventionally attractive people say they weren't attractive in high school. Sometimes it's true, but often you can see at least a foundation of attractiveness brewing. It's rarely a big shock. Went to high school with PK Subban. He was in his last year and I was a first year still making friends. I met this one girl who seemed nice enough but a little strange. Well, turned out she was only attracted to black men. And being a small town, there were only a few black guys at our school. She set her sights on PK and followed him around like a lost puppy. It was very embarrassing, but he always let her down easy and was very kind. At this point I was starting to think this girl was a little obsessive and started dialing back our friendship. Last straw was after several times of being let down easy by PK and still obsessing over him. She bought him a puppy for Valentine's Day. Montreal will never be the same. Went to school and I'm still friends with Stevie from Malcolm in the Middle. He's a really down-to-earth guy, loves all his friends. His birthday was actually yesterday, Sunday. My aunt and her friends went to school with John Mayer. One of her friends used to bully Mayer all the time. Now he's an alcoholic and hates his life. I went to school with Dave from Dave's Tire and Auto. He's the one on the commercial about 4 AM on the public access. Yeah, that guy changed, man. He used to be cool. Everybody knows Dave. I know it says high school, but I went to college with Jason Derulia. Was a really nice guy. Watched him play seaweed in Hairspray his last semester. Didn't go to school with him, but Eminem did a speech at my school when I was about 14. I walked out of the auditorium halfway through to go hang out with my then girlfriend. After his speech, Eminem toured the school. My girlfriend and I saw him and jokingly called out his name, to which he heard us and came over to chat for a few minutes. Pretty cool reward for skipping class and hanging out in the halls. Very down to earth guy. Miranda Kerr, typical popular pretty girl, who tried hard and had everyone fawn over her. Basically the perfect poster child and good girl who did whatever she was asked. I mean that with no disrespect intended. Her parents on the other hand are attention seekers and I have no respect for them. They moved the family across the country for her career when she was still quite young, without much care factor for her childhood, even less care factor for her younger brother who has struggled a lot in life living in her shadow. She was doing magazine shoots at 14 and being heavily made up and posed in skimpy outfits. There was quite a bit of uproar locally with people asking the question of whether it borderline on pedo stuff, because she was just so young, but they were making her up to be so much older, because she was so tall and skinny with such big eyes and lips. It seemed they were sexualizing a girl who wasn't even in the area of the legal age of consent, and it always seemed off that a parent would allow that. In Idaho, the parents basically made it all about her and they pinned everything on her gaining success at whatever cost. The parents were quite controlling and only gave the brother half glances in life. I believe Miranda tried to distance herself from them for a while, and not long ago they were doing interviews to the media saying they hadn't seen her in years and she wouldn't speak to them and didn't know why. Again, manipulative, attention seeking trash. I have nothing good to say about her parents at all. I remember when she won that Dolly Mag competition and I saw her picture, and though she's so pretty, like a doll, I remember that bad press about her family too. Very weird. My dad went to the same high school as Ron Jeremy. Some say he even left his secrets on how to get a bigger dong in 3 simple steps on the bathroom doors. Not high school, but middle school. 6th grade. I sat across Tyler the Creator for one semester, but he was in my class all year long. He was always making stupid jokes, and of course inappropriate jokes here and there. He broke my pen and said I could just go buy another one, lol. He was always chatty, talking about his favorite hip hop artists, the Neptunes and NERD I believe. Towards the last few days of school, our teacher brought a camcorder to record the class, and he wanted to do a rap battle with another classmate sitting in our group. The entire class roared with laughter and I wish I could remember why, but the opponent sat down afterwards. I didn't know he was Tyler the Creator until a few years ago. Crazy that he's famous now, and his humor is still intact. Small world. We went to the same middle school, haha, go Dolphins. Never met Taylor Swift in person, but we had lots of friends in common. They all didn't like her cause she was really annoying and super odd. My grandmother knew Elvis in high school. She was tanned like copper, so he always called her Penny. Don't know much else. She died before I was born. I can try to get some more info from my mom. My uncle used to sit next to Nicole Kidman on the bus to school. He says she was the classic pale, freckly and shy ginger kid that really kept to herself. Strange how someone who is so shy and introverted becomes such an outgoing and charismatic adult. Puberty, I guess. As a teenager who is somewhat shy but is very into musical theater and acting, I can seriously say I'm not surprised. People from my school are always surprised when I'm in shows and stuff, but I'm not shy on stage, only in real life. My girlfriend went to high school with Kal Penn. She says he was a super nice guy who was voted most likely best in about 5 different categories on top of being class president. He went on a road trip with my girlfriend's sister to visit Stanford too. She says they were all so proud when he got his first role. Nice to have your suspicions confirmed when you think somebody is a decent person. My dad went to school with Hugo Weaving before he got into NEDA. My dad also tried to talk him out of a career in acting after they graduated high school because he had no talent and would not make any money even if he did. Life lesson. Dad's not always right. To answer the question, he is and was a really nice guy. Co-worker went to high school with Paulie D from Jersey Shore. Said nothing about him stood out, just a typical and almost stereotypical Guido. Unsurprising sentence is unsurprising. My sister's best friend's mom went to high school with Tom Cruise in NJ. She said he was dirt poor, weird and lied a lot. In her words, short little chubby thing would follow me around. She said his teeth were all fricked up and when he said he was taking acting classes everyone thought he was bullshitting because he lied all the time. She said if I knew he was going to be famous, I would have been nicer. Pause. Now he was weirdo then and a weirdo now. My dad went to high school with Tom Cruise as well and said he was definitely weird but altogether a nice guy. I went to high school with both of Michael Jordan's kids. The elder one, Jeff, was laid back and very quiet. The younger one, Marcus, was very flashy and loved attention. Horace Grant's son went there too and was very loud and odd. My grandpa used to work on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and knew Will Smith personally. He introduced my parents to him and the 3 of them remain friends until this day. Nicki Minaj was 2 years ahead of me in high school. We weren't close at all. She went by Cookie back then. She was much darker skinned and had a bigger nose and no boobs or butt to speak of. She was very loud and attention seeking but nice to everybody. Went to college with Rami Malek. He is now the lead of Mr. Robot and killing it in Hollywood. We text occasionally, but that is it. Haven't stayed close since college. Rami Malek seems like such a good guy. Had PE class with Ryan Ross, original guitarist of Panic at the Disco. It was his senior year, so he and a friend goofed off during the entire course and gave everyone in the class nicknames. They called me Ben because I wore glasses and looked smart. My name is Chris. Another kid they called Blanca from Street Fighter. You can imagine why. Overall, he really was a nice guy. Didn't go to high school with him, but I live a few houses away from Mitch Mama. Is that how you spell it? From the Leafs. His house burned down last summer and the whole neighborhood stood around and watched. My friend's mom went to high school with the pro wrestler George the Animal Steel. He was the guy who used to play an insane guy who would eat the turnbuckles. He asked her on a date and she went with him and said he was really nice, but they both decided they just didn't quite hit it off. They remained friends, though. R.I.P. George the Animal Steel. My brothers went to elementary school with Brandon Flowers from The Colors. They said he was a fun kid to hang out with, but they only went to school with him for a couple of years before Brandon moved to Vegas. My life is oddly intertwined with Miley Cyrus in a few ways. 1. She and her dad went to the church in my area and she was always well behaved and just like anyone else. She also didn't stay long, but was comfy enough with one person in my family to let him sit next to her in the pew. 2. My elementary school music teacher, this 60-plus-year-old guy who was balding with a Duck Dynasty beard, took his teenage daughter to try out and be an extra in the Hannah Montana movie. The casting people picked him instead of his daughter. He didn't even audition. Went to school with Sheryl Crow. She was sweet and quiet and very talented, but lived in the shadow of her older sister, Karen Crow, who was amazing. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.